how much you get on a daily basis. I mean, from a weekly basis, Amber, what would you say, counting like emails, LinkedIn DMs, phone calls, uh, how much would you say you get per day of somebody trying to sell you something?
Per day, I would say probably 3 or 4. Weekly, it's probably closer to like 15, um, just depending on the day. And that's in a variety of ways: email, LinkedIn, calling my office phone. So
Is there one that's a little bit heavier than the other? I mean, is it like more emails? Is it more LinkedIn? Is it more phone calls?
I think emails is definitely the heaviest, and that's where I see a lot of the longer messages, I think. So I would say definitely I notice more emails.
Right, right. What are some of the like types of services or products that they're pitching you from the jump?
Yeah, it's a lot of ATS, a lot of like agency recruiting will reach out. So that's always interesting because they want to recruit for us, but like I'm a recruiter, so like I would have to leave for you to do my job. Um, but a lot of DEI products as well, or services. But for the most part, it's very like um, it's HR focused, which is interesting because I'm not. I work in talent management and recruiting, but I don't make like benefits decisions. And a
Hmm.
lot of times, it's like benefits vendors or people trying to sell like ATS impacts my job, but it's not something that I would have a decision on. It's just a
Sure.
tool that I would utilize.
So let me ask you this, because again, this is my first conversation with talent management. So I'm really interested to see how this goes as far as if somebody connects with you, are you having to run it up to the VP of HR, or how does that work? I mean, every organization is different, right? But how
Yeah.
does that work with you in TransPerfect?
Yeah. So within TransPerfect, it's me, and then I have a manager who has a manager who reports into our CEO. And on the HR side, we're separately based from HR, but we work very closely together. So I don't necessarily like report into HR in any way, like beyond what a normal employee would report into.
Gotcha.
So for me, it would be my boss's boss making that decision ultimately. And even then, it would need CEO approval, and we would have to talk to all of the different recruiting teams and all of the different HR teams that would be implementing.
Right, right. When it comes to cold outreach in general, right? Like you said, you're probably getting around 15 per week. Um, let's just say on a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to, and it depends on the service or product or whatever the case may be, but how likely are you to take a meeting from cold outreach?
For me, it's very rare that I would, because that's not really a decision that I get to make. I do pass off like good emails that I think would be helpful, or emails that I think are like a good product to my managers. But it's very unlikely that I myself would be the one involved in the call.
Gotcha, gotcha. So like a 1.
Yeah.
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 Is there anything in particular that annoys you about cold outreach? Like, is there any like one thing that seems to be fairly consistent that you get, because I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people that are reaching out, sorry to cut you off there. I feel like a lot of people that are reaching out, it's generally fairly blanket, right? Like it's pretty
Yeah.
much a similar outreach, but is there anything that really annoys you?
I think it's definitely LinkedIn messaging, only because that's where I do a lot of my other work as a recruiter. So it's
Mm,
clogging up my inbox. I can't get to candidates. I'm friending people thinking that or what is it, connecting with people thinking that they're interested in working for TransPerfect, and then get a cold outreach. And so I think for me, it's just frustrating because that's where the majority of my work is. My email, whatever, like that's what it's for, right? It's for people to connect. It's for people from outside the organization to get in touch with me. But LinkedIn, I think, is just it's a frustration as a talent management professional, but it's
right.
probably not that for other people.
Yeah, no, that's great perspective. I guess I never thought about it that way, but that is true. I mean, that's like the tool for you to
Yeah,
use, to connect with people that could be good fits for your organization. That's interesting. That's a good point. Um,
yeah.
have you received any, I've gotten some great stories on this, not to put any pressure on you, but have you received any cold outreach that's been really unique? Whether it be bad or good. I mean, a bad story is great too. But is there any unique cold outreach that you've received that you've been like, wow, that was really cool? I may not be interested, but this was, you were memorable at least.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm sorry, but I don't think I have a good story for you.
I put too much
Um,
pressure on you.
no, no, it's just I don't because I'm not usually responding to them. Like um I think like I guess what interests me or what makes me open an email is like an interesting subject line. And as someone who creates like newsletters and outreach for Trends Perfect, like that's one of the hardest things to come up with a creative subject. So I would say like I don't have an example, but that's what makes me open an email.
Right, right. I totally understand. Now you mentioned it, like you use LinkedIn obviously as a way to recruit people into, to find talent, right? Like you're in
Yeah.
talent management. That's a great tool to use. What are your overall thoughts? I guess you'll have a great perspective here actually, because you technically do cold outreach through LinkedIn, is what it sounds like. Am I right? and
Yeah.
then and then obviously also receive it. What are your overall thoughts about cold outreach via LinkedIn? Like, is there a time frame in which it's like, hey, we should be friends for X amount of times, or we should be connected for X amount, for 2 to 3 weeks until you should do something, or what's your overall thoughts on it?
I think my overall thoughts are that LinkedIn has so much information. And so it can be used really, really well, or it can be used really negatively. And I'm guilty of this too, sometimes just sending out emails to anyone who has something on their profile. But I feel like it's probably better if people like take the time to like I have my whole job description on LinkedIn. I have my title, I have I am connected with my manager. If you took the 2 minutes to read, you would know that like I'm not high enough on the totem pole to make those decisions. And so it's probably, um, it, I think like in terms of LinkedIn, like etiquette, just knowing like who you're reaching out to, and taking the time to really understand our organization's needs instead of blanket outreach. For example, if you're sending me outreach of like, do you need recruiting assistance? Do you need people to recruit for you? We are a recruiting agency. No, I don't, because then I don't have a job. And so I think that's like frustrating. Is that there is so much information out there, but people just use it blanket style, and I think we're all guilty of that. But
Yeah.
definitely when I'm trying to connect with candidates, I try to read what they're doing, read what they're interested in. Have they posted anything? Have they shared anything? And it's hard. We're all under pressure. We all have quotas to hit and numbers to hit every day. But I think just that little bit of extra time would result in better um, ROI.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Relationship ROI for sure,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
which is the most important part, especially when it comes to cold outreach. That's really been like the constant with everybody. Now,
Mhm.
like I said, we were kind of a little bit different, similar thing, but like we were talking to VPs of HR in the beginning of when we started conducting this interview series, and it was very much like that, where it's like, hey, if you want to connect with me, like you're gonna have to really be form a relationship with me and like make it a real thing before it's like, I'll buy
Yeah.
something from you. So last question here, as far as like, is there any forms of marketing when it comes to, because sales are cold outreach is like a marketing version of sales, right? Like
Yeah.
you're really trying to get like a flash in the pan of like what somebody is, and what an organization is. Is there any type of marketing that really has resonated with you in the past, has been like, I really like what they're doing right there?
Yeah, I like visuals. I think like anything that's like an infographic or a video that I can watch, like that I'm interested in. I don't want to read your email with like, we are 40% better at XYZ, or our clients do this 12% more. Like, okay, but that doesn't mean it'll work for my, like, I want to see case studies. I want to see,
Hmm.
information on what the impact will be, or what the impact has been other places. And then I want to hear how it's going to impact my company. And maybe that comes from more conversations as well. But yeah, definitely, a focus on impact over sale is important to me.